Here we go, week 3 on our Tuesday talks.
Our final Tuesday talk for this devotional.
Which
is from the Bible app.
The Bible app called Walk on Water.
Yes.
And this is the final one for this devotional. That may not be the final one ever.
No, but it is for this devotional.
I'm just saying, final a lot of times means final.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good.
Week 3.
Week 3, here we go, moving on. I went tobogganing with my kids. I can't say I went tobogganing with my kids. I took my kids to a toboggan hill, and they tobogganed. They did some sliding or whatever you would call it on a toboggan on a sled or whatever. They did most of it. But there was this one moment, and we had these GT snow racers there.
Yeah.
And GT snow racers they came out while I was a child.
Yes, I remember my brother got one.
And it was pretty amazing that you could actually steer the sled.
Yes.
It's hard to say. Steer the sled. And so we were tobogganing, and another family was there. And so our children and our wives had encouraged us to have a race, that I would race this other dad on the GT snow racer. And so I reluctantly got on the GT snow racer. And
You did it wonderfully.
thank you, dear. And so we get on it, and the other dad, apparently his GT snow racer was way better than mine. Had like a better engine and better tires and everything. And so he gets on the GT snow racer and gets a significant lead right off the bat.
I was embarrassed, actually.
Well, you didn't really tell me that, dear, but that's all good. I was also embarrassed because I was so far behind the other guy, and I'm like, man, this is not good. But what happened is that as we're in the race, so we had to get down the hill to the first person who got down to the certain spot on the hill. Well, what happens is about 3/4 of the way down the hill, the other dad presses on the brake because he gets a bit, nervous or whatever, and actually flips over on his GT. And so here I am just kind of poking along on my GT, and I'm thinking to myself, oh man, I'm such an idiot. And then he falls over, and then I zoom by him, and I kind of think to myself, oh yeah, baby. Yes. I get by him, and I win the race, and he has flipped out on his GT, and I come back up the hill. I put the GT on my back like a man, and I start walking up the hill with a bit of a swagger, with a bit of did you see? And I look, I'm looking for my wife, and she's like, yeah. Initially, it was embarrassment, but this time it was kind of that's my husband, and I'm not sure she was thinking that at all. But I did win.
He did win. Yes,
right? Because the other guy fell over. And so I didn't think I was going to win, but it wasn't necessarily about how fast or how, I was able to sustain my line and keep going.
Yeah, and be steadfast in your tobogganing.
I was steadfast.
Yes. Well, here we are again in our story, and of Matthew 14. And again, if you haven't read it yet, I encourage you to do that. And this is the story where Jesus walks on the water, and of course, Peter comes out and says, during the storm, and he's like, Jesus, if it's really you, let me come out on the water. And Jesus says, come. Peter immediately gets out of the boat and starts walking on the water.
Nice.
And then he begins to look around at the storm and the winds and the waves. And of course, he takes his eyes off Jesus, his focus off Jesus, and he slowly or fast sinks. And we know that Jesus obviously helps him and grabs him and picks him back up on the boat. But so here we are, and this is how do we walk on water? How do we step out of the boat? How do we actually do it? And we have to take one foot and put it in front of the other. That's how you move along. That's how you do it. And yet, we are to have that kind of faith where we boldly go out. And Peter had no problem being bold. right? We know that in all of his, if you were to do a character study of Peter from the New Testament, you would know that one of his great characteristics is his boldness. And, with that boldness, some people would suggest that he doesn't really think before he acts. So, Jesus says, come, and he comes because he has such faith and boldness. And that gets you started in life. That gets you started in your faith and in your stepping out. But we need more than just boldness.
It's funny because a lot of times we think, a lot of times when God calls us to do something, and that takes faith and we're called to step out, I think there are times that we just get the impression that I just have to build it up for this one moment and then I'll be fine. Mm-hmm. That it's this build-up moment, right?
Yeah.
And that Peter had this one build-up moment. He steps out of the boat and it worked. But so often when God calls us to something, an expression of faith, it's not just one moment. There's a process that has to be finished, that has to be completed, and it's going to take more than just like a jumping out of the boat in order to accomplish this. In order to follow through this, it's gonna take some sort of like continuation.
Yeah, to be a steady type of faith. The devotional says the strength of our faith isn't always best measured by the moves we make, but how steadfast we remain in the midst of the storm. We can have a lot of people, and I'm sure we know a lot of people who start projects and then never finish.
Not me. I'm all the way through.
Oh, look at my kitchen. Anyways.
It's going to get done. It's going to happen. Slow and steady wins the race. That's what they say.
But we start these things, but yet we don't have the faith to continue, or we allow the things of life to buffet us off course or to discourage us. And so we don't have this steadfast or stick-to-itness of type of faith. And I think that Jesus in this story, he says that, well, Peter, why do you have such little faith? And I don't know that he was telling, like, Peter obviously had more faith than all of the other ones, right? It's just, I think it's more that, like, Peter, why can't you have faith that lasts a bit, lasts longer?
Yeah, what if Jesus was trying to say, Peter, how come your faith was so short?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Instead of, Peter, it's not just about a moment. You need to, it needs to be bigger. It needs to be longer. It needs to continue. And God's word says, and it's not in the devotion, but it says, we just need a mustard seed of faith. So it's not necessarily about, okay, how much faith you have. It's like, how long can you sustain having this faith?
Yeah. Paul wrote, I have fought the good fight and I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. And he knew that we needed more than just faith. We needed to keep that faith going until the very end. And if we want to be people who step out of the boat, we have to have that kind of faith, that kind of stick-to-itness that's not going to stop when life gets hard. When the waves around us are still swirling, when the storms around us and the difficulties around us are still going on, we have to have that kind of faith that's going to say, no, I'm going to stay with this no matter what. Mm-hmm. Because I have faith and I'm keeping my focus and my eyes fixed on Jesus.
I think we have to be careful about how, even when we step out in faith and realizing it could take some time.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? It could take some time for this to happen.
Yeah.
And for this instance, for Peter, eventually Jesus brought him back to the boat. Jesus calmed the storm, and everything was fine.
Yeah.
That there is a season of obedience and stepping out in faith, but eventually that season will end. But we don't really know how long that season's going to be for us to be able to get to that moment of calm in our life. But we have to stick with it. We have to be able to stick with it with our faith to realize and allow Jesus to calm the storm.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And then we'll be able to and realize, oh wow, I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's one of those things that we have to continue to stay on our faith, continue to worship Jesus, continue to believe in him through this stepping out in your life. And look, this is what our life has to be about. This is what this is what the life that God's called us to, and it seems scary. It seems like, okay, I don't know if I can do this every day, or I can, and yet, but this is the exciting part of it. This is the trusting in Jesus. This is the relying on Him and continuing to rely on Him that He has called us to. And I can't imagine what it would have been like. I mean, it would have been amazing to be with the disciples for those 3 years.
Yeah.
Right? And be there and just be like, man, what's Jesus going to do today? But there was a moment in Jesus' ministry that many of Jesus' followers walked away. Can you imagine if you were one of those people who started following Jesus and then you're just like, this guy's great, no way, forget it, and then they left.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? You're like, don't leave Jesus. Don't leave this amazing journey.
Yes.
Of faith. And when I say journey of faith, I understand this isn't about you like completely rejecting God. I'm just talking about, and I'm sure those people who left Jesus didn't completely reject God. They just said, no, this Jesus train's too crazy for me, right? This is nutso. But don't leave. Stick with it.
Yeah.
Be steadfast. You don't know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. Just stay on track. You're gonna come out on the other side here.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So keep worshiping, keep believing, keep thinking, okay, God, what are you going to do next? What's going to happen? I don't know, but I'm sticking with you.
Yeah.
And there's going to be moments. Listen, there's going to be moments when you're going to lack faith and look around. Just put your eyes back on Jesus.
Yeah.
And He'll bring you back.
Yeah.
He'll bring you back. So it doesn't mean that you can't fail. It doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. It doesn't mean there's going to be moments where you look around and be like, this is crazy. But if we can continually steer our eyes back to Jesus, then we'll be able to fulfill what God's purpose was, and when He called us and taking that step.
That's true. So when we leave, as we leave today, we just want to remind you and encourage you to keep worshiping the Lord. But we want to leave you with this thought. Isaiah 26, it says, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you." We can be steadfast in our trust in God. He is a trustworthy God. So remain faithful to Him no matter what you see around you today.
God bless, and we'll see you soon with another devotional on a Tuesday.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.